So how good is the AS VAL? Well, it's the best Gerstern gun in the game, and I'm going to tell you why. Now, generally when we're talking about the best gun in the game, air quotes, in a game like Tarkov, it's going to be fairly subjective. This is obviously my opinion. However, I do not think you can argue that it is at least one of the best guns in the game. So let's get into it. As usual, I'll be comparing the AS VAL to the in-game standard, the M4, and it really is an M4 competitor. I would use this gun in the same kind of maps and situations that I would use the M4 in. So how does it compare? The AS VAL has way better ergonomics, a better base accuracy, less recoil, a higher rate of fire than the M4, and you know, it's one thing to just see these stats, but I really feel the difference when I use it. It just feels like a better M4. It's a little more stable, a little higher rate of fire, and as far as bullet damage goes, which you can't really see in these stats, it seems to be higher damage as well. So I tested out the bullet damage, which was a little difficult now that scavs aren't quite dumb enough to just stand there and let me shoot them one bullet at a time like they were in the previous patch. But in all the testing I did, at the very worst, the AS VAL is at least equal to the M4, but it is, in my testing, seemed to be better. So I used the Full Metal Jacket ammo for the M4 and the one with the higher velocity for the AS VAL. And I was one-shotting a lot of scavs with the AS VAL. Without it being a headshot, I was aiming center mass. Some even had PACA on. Now, this wasn't super consistent. Sometimes I even one-shot scavs with the M4, just a lot less. It happened a lot more with the AS VAL. So averaging all the scavs I tested this on, I would say the AS VAL reliably kills shooting center mass in 1 to 3 shots, while I would say the M4 reliably kills in 2 to 3 shots, more around 3. So again, this is an average. Sometimes it took more shots, sometimes it took less shots for the M4. These are all just kind of my unscientific averaging of the rounds that I took these two guns out. Now, the better accuracy and all these other stats for the AS VAL is all done with the only mod being the optics that I used. There is you can attach a flashlight or laser or something to this as well, but I don't do that. So even with this modded M4 that I have, the AS VAL beats it out in the areas I've mentioned. And you know, even though I love modding out my guns, if I can get these results without mods, that just means I'm spending less money on mods. So from a purely utilitarian perspective, the AS VAL not really having or needing mods is really good for your bank. Now, there are some areas that the M4 beats out the AS VAL. The clip size is by far the biggest limiting factor in my opinion. It's gotten me killed a couple times and I lost my little baby, but 20 rounds is the max clip size at the moment, and I imagine it staying that way. Of course, with the M4 you can get those 60 round drum clips. Those new ones only take away 5 ergonomics. I love those things, but that's a huge plus for the M4. The AS VAL is also really hard to get. It's rare. You need to get 2 Geiger counters to even be able to purchase it, along with the MREs, but you can just buy those off one of the traders. But those Geiger counters are pretty rare, and even just finding it, I have found one in factory before in the locker rooms, but it's only ever happened once, so it's really rare. And the M4 is relatively cheap in the in-game. It costs around $750 US, or for 153 shotguns, and I never really have a problem buying these, especially with the shotguns. I have more M4s than I know what to do with. So even though I would like to be using the AS VAL all the time, the reality is they're just too hard to come by for that to be the case. Another thing is the ammo. The ammo is astronomically expensive for the AS VAL. It costs me, for like 200 rounds, I think it's like almost 40K or something. I could buy a AK, full-sized AK, and mod it out for less money than it cost me just for like one ammo, like one round of ammo. It's crazy expensive for the ammo. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And the last stat that the M4 actually has an advantage over the AS VAL would be the effective distance, so the range that it's effective. The M4 has a 100-meter advantage. It's 500 as opposed to 400 on the AS VAL. So I don't really do the sniping thing too much. I don't really go out to woods or whatever and snipe. So you know, that's not a big deal depending on your play style. For me, it's not a big deal at all. And even when I do have to take out guys at range, I've found that the AS VAL does just fine. You know, that sniper in customs, I've taken him out easily with the AS VAL. And the last thing in comparing these two guns is muzzle velocity. Now, a lower muzzle velocity doesn't automatically mean it's worse. Theoretically, it just means that your gun is quieter if you have a lower muzzle velocity. If you look at the different ammo types, you may have noticed that some of them have really low velocity, and you're like, why would I ever even buy that? Why is this even an option? Well, the purpose is that on silenced weapons, you would buy these lower velocity rounds and they would make less sound. Now, I've never even noticed my rounds, you know, not getting to the enemies. I've never felt like I had to lead my shots more so than the M4. So practically I've never really noticed this having any effect. So even with the downsides, just taking out the AS VAL and using it has convinced me that this is the best gun in Tarkov. I absolutely freaking love this thing. And I do hope they make it a little more common in the future, but, you know, I guess it's kind of fun to have rare weapons as well. So either way, I guess. Anyway, I hope this helps. If you haven't had a chance to get your hands on an AS VAL, keep an eye out for those Geiger counters and get one. They are so much fun. And yeah, anyway, good luck, Godspeed, etc.